Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Jewish morning meditation. I am David Eli Grunland. So we're still in Birkat HaTorah. We're now reciting verses from the Mishnah. It's interesting to note these verses that we're going through now, these teachings of our sages, don't exist within the Sephardic customs and the Edut Mizrach. It's not in any of their Siddurim. It is rarely in more of the Kabbalistic Siddurim, but it is in Nusach Sfard, which is used by Hasidim, and it is in Nusach Ashkenaz, used by Ashkenazim, which is the Nusach in which I daven. And so that's the one I'm going to follow. Anyway, last time we spoke about this idea of Elu Dvarim she'ein lahem shi'ur. These are things which don't have any measure. And we talked about the fact that, life is infinite, and our experience of the world can go infinitely deep. And one of the great challenges is when we live on the surface. But then the Mishnah goes on to describe some examples of these things that don't have a measure. And the first example it gives is pe'ah. Pe'ah really means the corners, or it's translated as the corners. And it has to do with when a farmer is harvesting his fields, he's supposed to leave the corners of that field for the poor. That is, don't harvest the corners, leave it untouched, and let any poor person who needs go and collect from that corner of the field. And there's no measure to that. That is to say, how big is that corner? How much space is he supposed to leave for the other person? And I was thinking about, how does that affect me in my life? How am I supposed to take that idea? How am I supposed to meditate on that and use that as some kind of kavanah, as an intention for the way I live my life and the way I go through my day? And I was thinking about a story my wife has been telling me recently, where she spoke to somebody and that person said this line, "I'm okay with my imperfections." It's a very simple line. I'm okay with my imperfections. And at the same time, it's incredibly profound. What does that mean to be okay with imperfections? Well, if we think about it in terms of pe'ah, for a farmer to leave the corners of the field, that's saying the harvest was imperfect. The harvest didn't collect every detail. And so the way I want to take it is, when it comes to our studying, when it comes to our contemplation of the world, when it comes to our contemplation of life, it is infinite. When it comes to our own personal growth and betterment, there's infinite amount that we can grow, that we can become better. And sometimes that can become overbearing. How can I do it? How can I even take the first step if I know there's infinitely more steps to go? And I think by saying, Elu dvarim she'en lahem shi'ur ha'pe'ah, there's no measure to the pe'ah. That amount, the possibility for leaving things imperfect, has no measure. It's saying, you know what? That's okay. It's saying, take that first step, because we are inherently imperfect. And I can go through the world, and yes, I should go through and I should find meaning, and I should constantly strive to look and find deeper levels of connection to my experiences and to the people with whom I interact. But I always have to remember that there's infinitely more that I don't know. And that by having that in mind, I can always remember to drive myself forward, to try to know a little bit more, because there's always infinitely more. And I think that's a great sign for us to keep in mind, that whenever we encounter something, we say, oh, I don't know the answer to that question, or I don't know so much about this person, or I don't really understand how this works, or why a person's acting in one way, or why they're doing something else. To recognize the pe'ah has no shiur, the corners, that part that I leave has no measure, meaning there are some things that we're just going to have to leave it. Maybe I'll want to explore it, but in the moment I just have to leave it. And that leaving it can actually be the greatest act of charity to myself and charity to that other person. It prevents me from judging too quickly and judging too harshly, and it lets me say, I'm leaving the corner alone, and let me go through, let me deal with what I can handle, let me deal with the primary point of my experience, And yes, that means there's going to be certain things that are left out, certain things of which I'm not in control. And that's okay. In fact, it's immeasurable how okay it is. Have a wonderful day.